I was their star. The one they counted on. The one who stayed late, fixed their messes, made the money. I thought loyalty was protection. Turns out it was bait. When they fired me, they didn't just end my career. They declared war. But not the kind they were ready for. This isn't about screaming matches or smashed glass. It's about the long game. Cold strategy. Watching them smile while I built the fuse that would burn it all down. I didn't want revenge. They handed it to me. All I had to do was unwrap it. Before we start, tell me in the comments, have you ever watched someone betray you and had to stay silent, planning every move? Or did you strike back? So get comfortable. Drop a comment, where in the world are you listening from? This isn't just a confession. It's a masterclass in destroying the ones who thought they owned you. I'll never forget the first time I walked into that hotel. The polished floors. The warm lobby fireplace. The hum of conference groups checking in. I felt like I'd made it. I was 28, newly promoted to sales manager. It was the nicest property in Charlottesville, Virginia. We did weddings, corporate events, big conventions in the summer. I loved my job. I loved the staff. I was good at it, too. I worked insane hours. Weekends. Holidays. I missed family birthdays to close deals. But it felt worth it, until he became my boss. Carl Whitman. Tall. Suave. Always grinning. The first time we met, he was charming. He said he loved my hustle. He said he wanted to develop me into upper management. I actually believed him. But Carl had two faces. Public Carl was slick and professional. He was the guy who got standing ovations at corporate retreats for turning the region around. But behind closed doors, he was poison. It started with jokes. Sales girls are just pretty faces. You're so emotional, Cara. Is it that time of the month? I tried laughing it off. I tried HR. But HR was literally just Debbie Hall, who reported to him. So I let it go. I swallowed it. I told myself it wasn't worth fighting about. I needed the paycheck. I kept my head down and worked harder. I built relationships with local companies. I negotiated better rates for big event groups. I even brought in a massive contract with a local manufacturer, the single biggest deal our location had ever seen. $500,000 over 2 years. When I closed it, I was so proud I cried in my car. At the next staff meeting, Carl strutted in and bragged about his deal. He didn't mention my name once. I remember looking around the room. Some of my co-workers looked away. Debbie avoided my eyes. I realized no one was going to say anything. I went home that night and drank wine straight from the bottle. But I told myself, Cara, it's just how the world works. Don't make waves. Keep your job. So I did. But the tension kept building. Carl found excuses to berate me. Once I asked for clarification on a budget line and he said, Jesus, Cara, it's not rocket science. Do you ever think before you talk? Another time, I offered to help with a wedding tasting and he said, just smile and don't scare off the groom, okay? It wasn't just sexist. It was humiliating. But he was the boss. I needed this job. Budget season was the breaking point. I'd spent weeks prepping our annual sales plan. I had charts, projections. I was proud of it. Carl showed up 10 minutes late to the meeting. Didn't even open my binder. He just said, we're cutting your budget by 40%. I blinked. Why? That makes no sense. We're growing. He smirked. You're getting too expensive. We can get a new sales manager cheaper. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. He was going to get rid of me. The next morning, he called me into his office. He had that fake grin. Cara, this is hard for me. We're restructuring. Your role is being eliminated. He slid a folder across the desk. 2 weeks severance. Non-compete clause for the entire county. Sign this and we'll part ways amicably. My hands shook so badly I couldn't even pick up the pen. He said, "Come on. Don't make this ugly. You should be grateful. Most companies wouldn't offer anything." I don't even remember leaving. I was on autopilot. I drove home in silence, parked in my driveway, and burst into tears so hard I couldn't breathe. 5 years. 5 years of loyalty. He erased me like I was nothing. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Humiliated. Worthless. Disposable. But deep in my gut, something shifted. I wasn't going to sign his damn papers. I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I wasn't done with Carl Whitman. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, heart racing, mind replaying every insult, every smirk on Carl's face. I felt sick remembering the meeting where he bragged about my deal like it was his. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was about the humiliation. About the way he looked at me while firing me, like I was a dog he was kicking off his porch. The next morning, I woke up with puffy eyes and a pounding head. I saw the severance packet on my kitchen table. 2 weeks' pay. And a year-long non-compete. I actually laughed. Out loud. It was so insulting it was absurd. Be grateful. That's what he'd said. I crumpled up the papers and threw them across the room. I spent the day sending out resumes, calling hotels in the area. But nobody wanted me. They'd heard rumors. That I was unprofessional. That I was difficult. That I couldn't handle feedback. Carl had poisoned the well before I even left. I knew exactly what he was doing. I just hadn't expected it to work so fast. By the end of the week, I was out of food, out of savings, and out of hope. I remember lying on the floor of my apartment, staring at the ceiling fan spin. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. But somewhere under all that shame was rage. White hot. Pure. He wanted me to vanish. He wanted me to sign his papers and be grateful for the privilege. So I didn't sign. Instead, I called my old friend Eric Daniels. He was a lawyer who specialized in employment contracts. We hadn't spoken in months. When he answered, I burst into tears. He listened without interrupting. When I finally finished, voice raw, he said, "Kara, he can't enforce that non-compete. It's way too broad. Virginia hates those. And that severance is garbage." I wiped my nose and sniffled. He said I should be grateful. Eric laughed bitterly. Yeah, grateful he didn't spit in your face on the way out the door. He told me not to sign anything. He offered to write a letter threatening to sue. Just the idea of pushing back made me feel a tiny spark of power return. But Carl wasn't done. He sent me an email. "Kara, sign the agreement or we'll assume you're refusing severance. I'd hate to see you blacklisted." Blacklisted? He was threatening me now. Debbie Hall, the HR person who used to avoid my eyes in meetings, called me too. She sounded nervous. "Kara, I'm just trying to help. Carl really wants this resolved." I told her I wasn't signing. She sighed. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I hung up on her. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so loud I couldn't hear. I felt like I was going to throw up. That night, I opened my old work laptop. They'd wiped it remotely before I left. But I remembered something. Months earlier, I'd saved a full backup of my work folders to Google Drive, just so I could work from home. They'd never told me to delete it. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the trackpad. If I opened it, there was no going back. I took a deep breath. Clicked. And there it was. Years of emails. Vendor invoices. Meeting notes. Budgets. All of it. I stared at the screen for hours. My rage was ice cold now. Controlled. Carl thought I was some dumb emotional sales girl. He thought I'd just go away. But I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to fight. And I wasn't going to fight fair. Because if he wanted ugly, I could do ugly. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I sat at my tiny kitchen table surrounded by half-empty coffee mugs and scraps of paper. My eyes burned from the screen. I scrolled line after line of invoices, notes, email threads. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for at first. I just knew I had to find something. Because Carl didn't just fire me. He humiliated me. He took credit for my work. He smeared my name in the local industry. He wanted to destroy my career, and was willing to lie to do it. That wasn't just business. That was personal. One night around 2 a.m., I remembered something. A meeting from about a year back. Carl had been bragging to me about how he got our cleaning supply vendor to cut rates by 40%. I'd done that RFP myself. The numbers hadn't added up. When I questioned it back then, he said, "Don't overthink it. I've got it handled." At the time, I let it go. He was the boss. But now that smelled rotten. So I dug into those vendor invoices. Line by line. I cross-checked the price sheets I'd saved. The actual cost was nowhere near 40% off. In fact, we were paying more than competitors. Way more. And every invoice was approved by Carl. My pulse quickened. This was it. This was the thread. But I needed proof. Real proof. So I called Tracy Miller, our old rep from the cleaning vendor. We hadn't spoken since I left. She sounded surprised. "Kara, I heard you weren't there anymore." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, about that. Can I ask you something off the record?" She paused. "Sure." I asked her straight out. "Did Carl make you overbill us?" Silence. I heard her exhale. "Kara, I don't want to get involved." "Tracy, please. He ruined me. I need the truth." She was quiet for what felt like an hour. Finally, she said, "He didn't make us overbill. He asked us to. And he demanded we include a kickback for him in the markup." My throat went dry. "Can you prove that?" Another pause. "I might have something. Let me check." We hung up. My heart was hammering so loud I could barely hear. I felt like I might throw up. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was adrenaline. The next morning, Tracy emailed me a PDF. It was their internal pricing sheet. Handwritten at the bottom. "Carl, your cut included here." I read it 3 times to be sure. I wanted to scream. He wasn't just an asshole. He was a criminal. I sent the file to Eric, my lawyer friend. He called me immediately. "Holy shit. Kara, this is smoking gun evidence." I couldn't even smile. It felt too big. Too real. But I wasn't done. Because that wasn't the only vendor Carl boasted about negotiating. I dug into the banquet food invoices. Same overbilling. Same approvals. I cross-checked the dates he signed with the periods we had huge corporate events, weddings, conventions. Every time our volume spiked, so did the overcharges. And Carl's vendor consulting fees showed up in the ledger notes I'd backed up. It was a pattern. It was fraud. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Maybe over 100 grand over 3 years. I was shaking when I realized how big it was. But I kept going. Because there was something else I remembered. Carl's side hustle. The little bed and breakfast he bought on the edge of town. He used to brag that he was renovating it for cheap. How? He had our hotel maintenance guys do the work. On the clock. Using our supplies. I found work orders billed to the hotel for repairs that matched photos I'd seen of his B&B renovations on Facebook. He'd stolen labor. Stolen supplies. Stolen business from our wedding clients by offering them a better deal at his place. I sat back in my chair at dawn. My eyes burned. My neck was stiff. But I felt alive. For the first time since he fired me, I felt in control. Carl thought I'd crawl away. He thought I'd disappear. But I had receipts. Literally. I didn't even shower that morning. I was running on caffeine, adrenaline, and pure rage. But for the first time in weeks, I felt clear-headed. Focused. I knew what I had to do. I called Eric first. He picked up on the first ring. "You okay?" I snorted. "Define okay. I've been up all night building a fraud case." He chuckled darkly. "Send me everything." I uploaded it all. Vendor invoices, kickback notes, work orders for the B&B, cross-reference staff schedules showing Carl had hotel employees working there on company time, photos of the B&B renovations, receipts for supplies the hotel paid for. When Eric finished reading, he called me back. "This isn't just getting you leverage. This is enough for corporate to fire him. Maybe even prosecute." I felt a chill. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was serious. For a second, I hesitated. Carl deserved to burn. But what if it backfired? What if they sued me for accessing old records? Eric reassured me. "You didn't hack anything. You had them legally. They never revoked your access or demanded deletion. And besides, he's the one committing the crime." I swallowed hard. "Okay, let's do it." We drafted a letter to corporate. We didn't go to HR in Charlottesville. Debbie Hall was useless. We went straight to corporate HQ in Richmond. Eric worded it carefully. "Our client is in possession of evidence indicating significant financial misconduct, including vendor kickbacks, fraudulent billing, theft of services, and misappropriation of company resources by Mr. Carl Whitman." We attached a selection of documents. Not everything. Just enough to prove we weren't bluffing. When I hit send, my hands were shaking. I felt like I'd jumped off a cliff. Corporate's response was almost immediate. I got an email from Marcus Patel in their legal department asking for a call. He sounded polite, professional, but under the surface, he was panicked. He asked me to walk him through it. I did. Line by line. Every shady vendor markup. Every falsified work order. Every theft of labor for the B&B. Marcus didn't interrupt much. But when he did, his voice was tight. "We'll need everything you have." I spent the next 2 days compiling it all. Eric helped organize it like a prosecutor's exhibit list. By the end, it was hundreds of pages of emails, invoices, photos, and notes. When I sent it off, Marcus thanked me. "We take this extremely seriously. Please don't discuss it with anyone locally." I almost laughed. "Don't worry. I'm not exactly on speaking terms with them." After that, I heard nothing. For a week. Then 2. I felt like I was going insane. Did they believe me? Were they burying it? Did Carl know? Then, one afternoon, I got a text from Tracy Miller, the vendor rep who'd given me the smoking gun. "Holy shit. Did you hear? He's on leave." My heart stopped. Leave. Corporate suspended him pending investigation. He's not allowed on property. I sat in my living room, shaking. I felt dizzy. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. But it wasn't enough. I knew Carl. He wouldn't go quietly. He'd squirm. Lie. Charm them. He'd blame someone else. Probably me. So I kept digging. I went through everything I hadn't sent yet. I found emails where he pressured the vendor representatives to make it worth his while. I found wedding contracts he redirected to his B&B, including email threads where he offered them a special friends and family rate if they cancelled the hotel. I found a handwritten note from a staffer thanking him for the extra hours at the other property. He was so damn arrogant he hadn't even tried to hide it. I put it all together. Every last shred. I called Marcus. "I'm sending you more." He sounded grim. "How much more?" "All of it." I hit send. Then I sat back, closed my eyes, and waited. Because Carl had taught me something. If you're going to fight, don't half-ass it. You go for the kill. The next few days were the slowest of my life. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned every inch of my apartment. I reorganized my closet twice. But every time I sat still, my mind went wild. What if Marcus ghosted me? What if corporate quietly settled with Carl to avoid scandal? What if Carl found out I was the whistleblower and came after me? One night, around 11 p.m., I heard banging on my door. My blood froze. I crept to the peephole. It was Carl. He was pounding with his fist. "Kara, open up." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. He banged again. "I know you're in there." My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I called 911 in a whisper. He kept yelling, "You think you're so smart? You think you can ruin me?" His voice cracked. I actually heard him start crying. It was weirdly pathetic and terrifying. The cops came fast. When they arrived, Carl backed off, trying to smooth talk them. But I opened the door enough to tell them he was trespassing, that he'd threatened me. They escorted him away. One of the officers told me quietly, "If he comes back, call us immediately." I spent the rest of the night with the lights on. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, Marcus called. "Kara, are you safe?" I told him what happened. He was silent for a moment. "We'll handle it. Don't engage with him at all. He's been suspended pending our final report." He sounded furious. Not at me. At Carl. That was the first time I felt like maybe, just maybe, someone in corporate actually cared. 2 days later, it hit the fan. I didn't hear it from Marcus first. I heard it from Tracy. She called me breathless. Check the news. Local paper headline. Regional hotel manager suspended amid fraud probe. There was a photo of Carl, looking smug from some old PR event. The article was surprisingly detailed. They'd confirmed multiple vendor overbilling schemes, kickbacks, misappropriation of labor, unapproved personal renovations. Corporate released a statement. "We take these allegations extremely seriously and have placed the employee on indefinite leave pending investigation." I laughed so hard I started crying. It was this weird, ugly sound. Like all the poison was pouring out. But it wasn't over. I knew Carl. He'd fight back. Sure enough, I got an email that night from him. Subject line, "You think you've won." All caps. Unhinged. He called me a liar. A whore. Said I'd ruined his family. Threatened to make me pay. I forwarded it to Marcus immediately. He replied with one line. "Understood. Please block him." I did. Over the next week, I got updates from Eric, my lawyer. Corporate was going scorched earth. They launched a full audit of Carl's region. Vendors flipped like dominoes when corporate threatened them with breach of contract lawsuits. They all admitted to paying kickbacks. They sent ledgers, bank transfer records. Some even had Carl's personal Gmail messages arranging payments. It wasn't hundreds of dollars. It was six figures. At least $150,000 in vendor kickbacks alone over 3 years. Eric told me quietly on the phone. They're going to bury him. I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered sitting in his office while he smiled and fired me. "Don't make this ugly." He'd said it like he was being generous. I realized then that he'd underestimated me from day one. Thought I was too soft. Too emotional. Too female. And now, he was about to lose everything. But I wasn't done watching. I wanted to see him burn. I woke up the next morning to a new email from Marcus. Thank you for your cooperation. Carl Whitman's employment has been terminated effective immediately. I read it 3 times. He was gone. No suspension. No pending review. Terminated. I felt a weird hollowness in my chest. I'd fantasized about this moment for weeks. Seeing him humiliated, destroyed. But the victory felt quiet, empty, almost. Until Tracy called. She couldn't stop laughing. He showed up at the hotel yesterday screaming at security. They wouldn't even let him clear out his desk. She said he threatened to sue them. Said they had no proof. But corporate had all the proof. Thanks to me. They didn't just fire him. They filed a civil suit. $200,000 in damages, seeking repayment for vendor fraud and misuse of company resources. They also threatened to involve law enforcement. Marcus told me they were cooperating with the local DA. Carl tried to deny everything, but vendors rolled on him fast. Emails, bank records, voicemails with his voice spelling out the arrangement. They even found a handwritten ledger in his desk drawer with kickback amounts next to vendor names. He was done. I heard from old co-workers that Debbie Hall quit HR the week after he was fired. Guess she didn't want to explain why she'd ignored the complaints. Good riddance. But the best part? His precious side project, that charming little bed and breakfast he'd bragged about? Corporate had proof he diverted staff and supplies to build it. They sued him to recover costs. As part of the settlement, they seized the property. He didn't just lose his job. He lost the B&B. The thing he'd built his fake local entrepreneur image on. Gone. It made the local business journal. Former hotel executive loses B&B in fraud settlement. They published his mugshot from a public intoxication arrest after he was fired. But the destruction didn't stop there. Because Carl had a wife. Lena Whitman. I barely knew her. She was one of those picture-perfect social media wives. Lifestyle photos, #blessed. But she wasn't stupid. When the fraud stories broke, she hired a divorce lawyer. She filed immediately. She asked for, and got, the house. Primary custody of their 2 kids. He didn't even contest it. He couldn't afford to fight. He'd spent every penny of his kickbacks propping up that failing B&B. Once corporate seized it, he was broke. Tracy told me he moved into a crummy extended stay hotel on the highway. I didn't celebrate. Not out loud. But I smiled when I heard. Because he hadn't just lost money. He'd lost everything he used to humiliate me. His job. His reputation. His marriage. His future. But even as I watched him burn, part of me wondered if I was turning into him. Cold. Petty. Ruthless. Eric called me one evening as I sat staring at my laptop. How are you feeling? I didn't know what to say. Relieved. Angry. Sad. All of it. Eric said something I'll never forget. Kara, you didn't do this to him. He did it to himself. You just made sure people saw it. That helped. A little. Because despite everything, there was still more fallout coming. Corporate wanted me to come back. Not as sales manager. As general manager. They said they needed someone ethical to clean up the mess. They offered me more money than I'd ever made. More power. Respect. But they'd let Carl protect himself for years. They'd ignored my warnings. They'd let HR become his personal attack dog. I sat there with the offer letter open on my screen. My finger hovered over the accept button. But I couldn't do it. I closed the laptop. Because I realized I was done being anyone's employee. I sat there for hours, staring at the offer letter on my laptop. It was everything I used to want. Respect. A huge raise. Control. But all I could think about was Carl sitting in that same chair, smugly deciding who got fired, who got raises, who got blacklisted. I thought about the HR meetings where Debbie smiled at me while twisting the knife. About the vendors who paid him off like it was normal. About the way corporate ignored all the signs until it blew up in their faces. Did I really want to be part of that again? Even if they gave me the keys? I closed the laptop without replying. And I went for a walk. It was a cool evening in Charlottesville. The leaves had started to turn. I walked past the hotel itself. The lobby lights were on. Business as usual. A young woman in a suit was helping a guest check in. I wondered if she was the new me. If she'd be next. If corporate would ever really change. That's when I realized. I didn't trust them. I didn't want to. I didn't want to fix their messes. I wanted to build something of my own. Something honest. Something that couldn't be taken away by a smarmy boss with a fake smile. The next morning, I called Marcus. His voice was calm. Corporate legal, always unflappable. Kara, have you made a decision about the offer? I took a deep breath. Yeah. I'm turning it down. Silence on the other end. He didn't argue. Didn't try to sweeten the deal. Understood. Thank you for letting me know. And that was it. I didn't tell him what I was really thinking. That I didn't owe them a damn thing. Not anymore. After that call, I started making new ones. Not to hotels, but to banks. Small business advisors. Suppliers I trusted. I spent weeks building a plan. Pricing out leases. Researching competition. I decided to open my own event planning company. No corporate overlords. No greasy kickbacks. Just honest work for honest pay. Eric helped me file the paperwork. We celebrated over cheap beers on my porch. He toasted me. To Kara Simmons, CEO. I actually cried. Meanwhile, Carl's life just kept getting worse. I heard through the grapevine that Lena finalized the divorce. She got the house. Full custody of the kids. He didn't even contest it. Couldn't afford a lawyer. He moved into a motel by the highway. Applied for jobs at other hotels and got laughed out the door. His name was mud in the entire region. No one wanted to be associated with him. I got one last email from him. A burner account, no name on it. Subject line. You ruined me. Just those 3 words in the body. No threat this time. Just rage. Pathetic. I didn't reply. I didn't even save it. I deleted it without thinking. Because the truth was, he was right. I did ruin him. But he gave me the match. He soaked his own life in gasoline. I just lit it. I thought it would feel dirty. But it didn't. It felt honest. 1 year later, I stood inside my very own office. Not a hotel. Not a corporate cubicle. Mine. The sun poured through the windows of the little brick building I leased downtown. A pale gold Simmons Events and Coordination sign hung over the door. Underneath it, smaller letters. Where the details matter, and people do too. I had 4 employees now. All women. All incredible. All people I'd handpicked not just for their skill, but for their kindness. We planned weddings, corporate galas, non-profit fundraisers. I even had a few clients who used to work with my old hotel. They came to me the minute they heard I was back in business. And I never once overbilled. Never took a shady fee. Never let anyone be spoken to the way Carl spoke to me. I built a place where people felt safe, seen, valued. Sometimes I still think about him. I drive past the old B&B property on the way home. It's still there, empty, boarded up. Bank-owned sign leaning in the yard. I haven't seen Carl in person since that night he banged on my door screaming. But I heard through Tracy that he left town. Moved back in with his parents in South Carolina. Drives Uber now. Changed his name on social media. Every once in a while, someone in the industry asks me quietly, "Wait, didn't you used to work for Carl Whitman?" And I just smile, sip my coffee, and say, "Not anymore." People think revenge is about the explosion, about the fire, the wreckage, the screaming. But sometimes, revenge is quiet. It's calm. It's building something beautiful while they stand in the ashes of everything they thought they deserved. I don't lose sleep anymore. I don't flinch at my phone. I don't shrink when someone says, "You're too emotional to lead." Because I know better. Because I proved it. Carl didn't just lose. He taught me how to win. And that's something no severance package could ever buy. That's how it happened. That's how you take everything they stole from you and make them choke on it. If you're still here, you're my kind of person. The kind who doesn't forgive easy. The kind who plans. So do me a favor, like this video if you felt that burn. Subscribe to Revenge Action TV for more true stories of karma served ice cold. And don't forget to hit the bell, so you never miss when we drop a new blueprint for payback. Until next time, stay sharp, stay patient, and never let them see you coming.